I am TheFuzz, and the second custom card contest has now concluded. I gotta tell you, it's been a real blast looking at all these cards. There were like 50 some cards that I had to look through, and I gotta say, really, really good job. Unlike previously, I couldn't actually pick a single card that was like, wow, this is my favorite. So how I'm going to judge this contest is by whose 3 cards do the best job of, supporting an existing archetype or starting a new archetype. So, each submission will be judged by all 3 cards combined. Now, I'm going to go over all the cards because there's so many cool ones, but that's how the winner is going to be decided. That does mean that some people that submitted a single or 2 or like cards with different tribes, they probably, you're not going to be the winner, but I'm still going to mention those cards because they were all pretty cool. So anyways, without further ado, starting with Yavancer, who submitted his ideas for some zombie love. Don't we just love some zombies? Starting things off with Koran, Tortured Soul over here. 3 mana, 1 aspect, 2/1, comes in with a shield, and the second effect, at the end of your turn, you can put a copy of a zombie on the board you have into your hand as a summoned creature. The idea being is that when you play this summoned creature and it would die, then it's going to disappear. It doesn't go to your graveyard. That's interesting. I think, however, this card is completely overpowered because it costs only 3 mana and it costs 1 aspect. You can play this on turn 3 and then copy your Abhorrent Ghoul. And then, because it's shielded, it's not that easy to kill. So if your opponent can't kill it, then you get another Abhorrent Ghoul next turn, and you just get ridiculous amount of value. I love the idea, but this card needs to be like 3 aspects, 3 mana or something, because this is way too cheap. But the idea of giving Corruption like some card draw is neat. It's card draw, but not really card draw. Give them value, but more maybe towards late game. But cool card. The second card is a Spire Guard. It's a zombie knight, so it's not, it's a knight also. 3 mana, 2 aspects, 3, oh, I can't see, 3/3 with 2 speed, and then for 2 energy can send an attacking creature back to the support. It's a pretty decent card, pretty solid, not too flashy, but reasonable. Now, the only thing that put me off about this card was the fact that the effect is actually really obnoxious, because you can kind of like almost pacify a creature. Like it's gonna make attacking into your board really difficult because you can just cancel any attack. Like, how do you kill this guy? You have to run like 3 goblins into it because you could send 1 goblin back. But still, cool card. It's splashable. You could maybe run it in a Corruption Order Knight deck. It's a solid knight. So yeah. And then the last one, Queen of the Damned. This is probably the most interesting of the 3. So 3 aspects, 4 mana. When a zombie enters the field under your control, you may pay 2 mana plus the base cost, which I assume is mana. And then if you do, you double its attack and health. So let's say if you summon a Abhorrent Ghoul with her on the board, you can pay 4 extra mana, so 6 mana to get a 6/6 Ghoul. So that's obviously really slow and really expensive, but it does give zombies kind of like a control plan, almost, since, later on you have tons of mana anyways. And yeah, I think the best synergy is, of course, with Tombs of the Damned. You play Tombs, and then when you play Queen of the Damned, if she doesn't die, you can pay 3 mana when the zombie comes into play to get a 4/4 zombie instead of a 2/2 zombie. Man, that's pretty cool. This is not legendary, so I guess you could stack several of them, but you'd need a lot of mana to pull that off. But yeah, I like this because it gives zombies like kind of like a late game theme. This guy's a little bit too cheap, but still gives them a late game theme, so they're not all about aggro. Although I'm worried with these 3 cards. I mean, not so much the Spire Guard. They have now like not only ridiculous early game, but ridiculous late game. Like Koran right now, you just put in place of Ghoul probably, or maybe in place of something else, and oh my god, you get so much value out of it. So I think Yavancer did a solid job. I'm gonna name him one of the contenders for the title of the winner of the tournament. There'll be I have like 6 of these contenders, if you will. I shouldn't have said that, but who cares? So Yavancer, one of the 6, and once I've announced all 6, I'll pick the top 3, and then we'll get the winner. Anyways, our second contender, we've got Morcus. He went after the Aurites, which are not currently like a tribe. A few cards are like Aurite spirits. So he went with the Aurite theme. Alright, cool enough. So we got ourselves an Aurite Summoner who's a Shaman, although that's not really relevant because you can't really run this in a Shaman deck. There you go. So 3 mana, 2 aspect, 0/3, 2 speed is pretty bad stats, but makes Aurites 1 mana cheaper to a minimum of 1. And when you play an Aurite, you get a Might Emblem on this guy. That's pretty cool. You could play him on turn 4, kind of on the support row, but then you can start ramping out Aurites. Yeah, pretty solid card. It's kind of cool. I'm surprised he went for Aurites and not Spirits, because Aurites is a bit specific. There's only like a handful of those. I think you've got Charged Aurite, Spectral Aurite, and I think all the subordinates are Aurites as well. But, you know, if you were going to play it, this card would be a pretty good card to run in that deck. Next, we've got Forest Guardian. This is the other one of the other 2 Aurites. Well, the other one's not an Aurite, but so 4 mana, 2 aspects, 3/4, 2 speed. If you have another Aurite, you can play this with any 2 levels. So you could just, you don't have to splash or anything. You could just run this with the other card with the Summoner. And with 2 green, you get +1 speed. This means that this card is reasonably good by itself in just a mono green deck. You probably wouldn't run it in a mono green deck, but it works with Grand Reunion, and it would be a 3/4 with 3 speed. Just a solid card. Pretty good in trials, probably. And the last card is Shifting Touch. This is by far the most interesting card, and one of the weirdest cards here. So you look at all this text, you're probably wondering, what is all this? So you pay 1 mana, select a friendly Aurite, and then you may pay up to 6 mana, and then select each of your aspects for that much mana. So if you have, let's say, 4 aspects, you can pay up to 4 mana, and then depending on those aspects, you can give that creature different abilities, like as you see, +1 speed for nature, +1 attack, +1 health, etc. That's neat. My only issue with this card is that it's way too expensive, because you have to have like 4 aspects and pay like 4 mana to just buff 1 card, and these buffs are pretty weak for the most part. However, I do like the idea, and I think you could just make this card like 2 mana, but then you don't pay the mana for the aspect. Let's say if you have 4 aspects, for each of your aspects, you choose that buff. Let's say if you have blue, red, and green, when you cast this, you would get, you know, +1 speed, +1 attack, and that destroy creature ability. And that would be cool, because as it stands, I think it's too expensive, but I really think the idea is pretty cool. Maybe this is what Shifting Aurite should have been. This is kind of like Shifting Aurite in a spell form. That's kind of cool. So, yeah, pretty solid. Especially the Aurite Summoner is really nice. So, I'm going to name Marcus another contender. It's contender number 2. Really shouldn't have spoiled it there 6, because once the 6th one comes along, you're going to know nobody else is a contender. Whatever. Next up, we've got YS Chaos with Fairy Vampires. Okay. So the idea is it's Dominion Nature Fairies, or Fairy Vampires. This is the first one. It's flying 1/2 with 3 speed. You can sacrifice a fairy. That can include this one. And your vampires get +1 attack and get life bound. So it's kind of like triggering the vampirism effect kind of on your existing vampires. Now, again, the vampire fairies will be affected, so it'll affect itself. Pretty cool. It seems like a neat idea where your vampires are the ground creatures, the big dudes, and then they've got some fairies backing them up. And this seems like a pretty cool effect. Yeah, it's nice. Fallen Fairy, 2 mana, 1 nature only. Starts out as a 1/1/3 speed, but when you play a vampire, it gets 1 energy, and once it has 2, it becomes a 3/3, and it gains the vampire tag as well, which means it would benefit from vampirism and from the previous card as well. I like this idea because it's like you start out with this really weak creature, but then you can power it up, and this card could even be played with just an energy deck. You don't even have to play vampires. And hell, a 3/3 with 3 speed for 2 mana flying, it's pretty damn good. So this seems like it would just fit perfectly into that deck. Good card. Blood-Seeking Fairy. Yeah, I guess it's Blood-Seeking Mutant's girlfriend or something. Whatever. So 3 mana, 3 aspects, flying. Oh, it starts with 1 energy. You can pay the 1 energy and 1 mana, and then you can put a weakness emblem or something on a non-vampire creature, just like Blood-Seeking Mutant. But unlike Blood-Seeking Mutant, you can do this in the middle of combat. It's pretty nasty. And the other effect is you can pay 1 mana and sacrifice a fairy to add energy back. More realistically, you would add energy back with something like Empress of the Forest, or even Well, really just Empress of the Forest, because you'd have to run blue to get energy otherwise. But that would make Empress of the Forest a great combo with this. Yeah, solid card. Even by itself, it's not even that bad. And it's a Vampire Fairy as well. Seems like a good fit to the whole archetype. And yeah, just all three of these are really neat. And they don't even necessarily have to start a new archetype. Just putting some of these into existing deck, it's buffed to just fairies as well. So nice job, YS Chaos. And because it's such a nice job, I'm gonna name you the third contender. Well, 3 in a row, right? Lucky B. Moving on, we've got... Okay, these I'm gonna have to do a little differently. Because these are... Okay, there you go. So, Furious Orc. 2 Rage, 3 mana. 3/3 with 1 speed. When it gets damaged, it gets +1 energy. And then you can spend energy to give it speed. Yeah, I guess that's kind of cool. It doesn't seem particularly great because as a starting body, it's really bad. And, you know, you could get him up to a 3 speed. But the thing is, a 3 speed, 3/3 is like a Bloodwell Elite at worst. And it requires double rage, so it's a bit clunky. And yeah, you could potentially get him faster, but once you spend the energy, it seems unlikely he'll get more. So it's a little bit too weak to really make play anywhere, but it's a neat concept. Go back. Moving on. I'm gonna have to do this for all 3 because these are... Okay, there you go. This one's a little small. Can I make it bigger? No. Okay, well, in case you can't read this, it says for 3 mana, deal 1 damage to each friendly orc, and then deal damage to the enemy hero equal to the amount of damage. Equal to how many orcs you damage. So it's... I guess it could help as an activator for forced labor because, you know, all those things are orcs, and then you can pay the 3 mana, damage those guys and him. They all get to attack, and you do 4 damage to face. It's a pretty cool card, I guess. It would be a useful activator for that archetype. However, the only problem with this card is that it's like 3 mana to activate. That is a bit expensive, although it's kind of fair because you're also burning face. And if you have enough orcs, you could just easily kill your opponent. So, but yeah, it's seems like a fitting card. Yep. And the last card, we've got... I guess we can't make him bigger again. Elrak Fading Berserk. This may be one of the weirdest cards in the contest. So, 3/4 with 2 speed, and then at the beginning of your turn, he gets a shield emblem, and you lose 2 life. And then, when he takes damage, you can sack him and swap your life total with your opponent's. So this is a very odd card. Like, the swapping life seems really powerful, but because he shields himself, you might find it actually very difficult to actually damage him. And he gets a shield every turn, and shields stack. So once he's shielded like several times, he's burning you, by the way, every single turn. You might just never be able to damage him. It's cool. I just don't know how I would ever use this card. And I don't know, swapping life might be a bit nasty. Yeah, like, it seems like maybe too powerful of an effect. Like, if you could play him and damage him immediately, you could, like, literally go from, like, 2 life to 20 by swapping. That might be a bit unfair. I don't know. It's an interesting card, but I just don't know what to think about it. So, alright, so, yeah, not much really in terms of orc support. It's more the middle card that supports the slave archetype. Yeah, that card could see some play. The first card was a little bit not too interesting, sadly. The starting stat line is just a bit too low. And this card could easily just have been 1 red. I know I'm being picky, but I have to be picky because I have a lot of interesting cards to look through. So, GZ Milky, decent effort, but not quite on the contender level. We'll see you next time. Moving on to... Vitamin C brings us some more artifact creatures, automatons. So he submitted the Flux Protector in the last contest, which scored very highly. It was actually my second favorite card. So moving on with this theme, he brings us Arcadius, the Steel Overmind. Basically, this is supposed to be the big boss. He is 1 step above the Flux Protector. Now, if you take a look at him, he buffs other artifact creatures by +1/+1. It's pretty cool. And with the 4 aspects, he can summon 3 drones, which will be 2/2s. It's pretty terrifying. And also, when you lose a non-drone artifact, you can summon another drone. So it seems like a really fitting boss monster for the whole theme. May seem a little bit crazy because you can just summon 3 drones. But you compare this card to Red Dragon, and Red Dragon can spend 4 mana to do 5 damage to your face. Basically, a Red Dragon kills you very quickly if you don't kill it. So Arcadia Steel Overmind is essentially the same idea, where it, if it's left alive, it's gonna steamroll you because he's summoning 3 2/2s every turn, and you're not gonna survive very long against that. Not only that, you could actually use those drones to like start creating other things. Like if you can get Arcadius and Flux Protector on the board, your opponent's gonna have a really bad time trying to come back against you. Now, the 4 aspect requirement, I assume, is in place to prevent like Reanimator from being a thing. Probably, because if you could just reanimate this too quickly, and if it had the effect of summoning 3 drones, it'd be an insane card to come back. So really good. I like the idea. It seems like a really fitting boss monster for artifact creatures. We got Originator Alchemist. And this effect is kind of weird. So whenever a card is transformed, that is to say mostly by Renovation Facility, it turns into a real copy. So how it currently works is that if Renovation Facility transforms like a drone into something else, it's technically still a drone. So if it were to be bounced to your hand or killed and sent to the graveyard, it turns back into what it started out as. So this card says, okay, no, it's gonna become that permanently. Yeah. I guess it's kind of neat. I guess it would help deal with like nature trying to bounce your stuff, and filling your graveyard with more powerful creatures, especially because the drone itself has the ability to sacrifice itself to return an artifact creature to your hand. This card could actually be helpful by kind of building better artifacts and then being able to return them back to your hand. So yeah, it's a little bit weird, but I guess it makes sense. And the last card is Disassemble. The art, by the way, isn't it like exactly as like Renovation Facility? It's very similar. Oh, maybe I'm thinking of something else. Anyways, 1 mana instant spell. You can choose one, either pay 2 mana to destroy an artifact that is yours or your opponent's, and you summon 2 drones, or sacrifice a non-drone artifact and basically break it down into drones. You summon X drones, where X is the combined mana and level -1. So if you hit Arcadius, you would summon 7 drones, and if you try to put those drones back together with Renovation Facility, you'd get Flux Protector, so you lose a little bit of value. But you have the option to maybe like assemble different artifacts, which is kind of cool. And the first effect, of course, is really powerful as well, because it's a big counter to artifacts, and yeah, that's mostly what it is. Or if you want to pay the 2 mana, you could convert, let's say, 1 drone into 2 drones. I think the fact that it's instant is why it's so powerful, because if your opponent, let's say, were to attack one of your bigger artifacts with like a deadly creature, you could just play this and like disassemble it into drones and cancel the attack, and maybe the drones could like then use the Renovation Facility to transform it to something else. That's pretty cool. It would all probably have to be rebalanced, because combat tricks like that are a little ridiculous. I mean, cloning Vats was nerfed because it could do that, because it could summon creatures in the middle of combat. So that's something to keep in mind. But it's really cool. So actually, very good effort by Vitamin C. All 3 cards seem to be, they seem to pretty fit. So I'm gonna name him the 4th contender. Well done, and we'll see you in the next round. Moving on, we've got Vekros, who created Poseidon and the other god cards and won the last contest, bringing us some Knight synergy. So first we've got Knighting, 1 mana Blessing. Choose a good human, good that is Order, Nature, or Wisdom, so mostly Order, and then it becomes a Knight and gains Taunt. Now Taunt, as he explains, works pretty much as we'd expect. A creature that has Taunt, your opponent has to attack it with something before he can attack anything else. So it's a pretty cool mechanic, probably the way it should be anyways. I don't really think this card does very much of anything because transforming like a militia into a knight isn't very valuable. You could just run the knights that you want. Yeah. I guess you could give something taunt, but even then it's a little bit weak. But I guess it's a decent introduction to to taunt and to knights. Next we got Royal Charge. Basically it's it's a blessing, and then you can choose one. Either give all your guys okay. Either basically cavalry field your entire board until end of turn and then destroy the spell, or permanently your knights have Swift. So seems like a pretty big spell for knights. Yeah, I mean, just having like things like Namir be Swift is a little bit silly because mostly because of Namir's ability to like buff knights. You could play like 3 knights with a Namir and then like just get a huge attack. Or you could use this as a big boost to your entire board. Seems like a really solid card and a pretty cool way to buff knights. Well done, Vekros. King Alistor is supposed to be the big bad knight. It's Elite Human Knight. Look at this guy. 4 mana, 3 aspects, 3/5 with 2 speed. All of your militia are knights, I guess. And at the start of your turn, you may pay 1 mana to summon a militia or pay 1 of the energy to summon a Royal Guard. And a Royal Guard, as he explains, is a 2/2 with taunt. So pretty cool, but it seems a bit underwhelming for what's supposed to be such an epic creature. Like if you compare this to Arcadius, even like Arcadius is immediately threatening to overwhelm the board, whereas this guy, you know, you play him immediately. Transforming militia into knights mostly does nothing. I guess it's supposed to encourage you using soldiers and basic Alexa, but I don't know about that. And then, yeah, being able to summon, like, Royal Guards every turn, that's pretty cool, but again, it's a bit underwhelming for what it is. So, I think I'm gonna have to, even though I like Royal Charge, I'm gonna have to not give the contender tag to Mr. Vekros because a little bit too tame, I think. Didn't go wild enough. But hey, it's a cool concept. Buffing knights. I don't think knights need that much help. I think this card alone would be enough to make them, like, really scary deck, actually. Moving on. Oh, he also submitted a joke card. Guardian Warning. Whenever your opponent controls a Guardian of the Faithful, a big red arrow will point to it so you don't lose your creatures to it like an idiot. God damn it, I did it again, every Spellweaver player ever. By the way, this is the wrong flavor text. The correct flavor text for this card is, God damn it, I did it again, the fuzz. That's the correct flavor text, because it happens to me way too often. Anyways, Ryan is giving us 2 cards? Yeah, 2 cards. The first one, Efficient Formation. I'm just gonna bounce. Okay, yeah, there you go. It's a persistent buff to soldiers. If you control 2 or more soldiers, they all get +1 health. If you have 4 or more, they also get +1 attack, so +1/+1. And if you have 6 or more, they get 1 speed as well. So that's pretty cool, actually. It's gonna make like having a lot of militia pretty dangerous because, you know, if you just have 2, you know, +1 health, I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it's still decent. But once you get 4, all your militia become 2 speed. That's pretty good. And if you have 6, they will become 3 speed as well. I think the main reason this card will be dangerous is because of Guards. Because if you hold 4 mana, at the end of turn, you could summon Guards twice and instantly get a board of 2/2s with 2 speed. And then let's say you play 2 more soldiers and they become like 3 speed. So this will be a great card for soldiers. So nice job. But unfortunately, since Ryan is only submitting 1 cards for soldiers, I can't enter him into the contest. But you know what? Good job. This is a cool card. You get respect of the hat. Goblin Berserker, that's for goblins. 2 mana, 2/2 with 2 speed, unstoppable. It gets +1 attack for every goblin you control. It seems like a simple card, but it would fit pretty well into the existing, you know, because goblins right now just have the Firebrand Goblin, and that's it. With this guy, goblins would gain a lot, because you could play this guy, Gibbo and Roni, and the Firebrand Goblin for like 8 mana, and you'd have something like 11 swift damage. Seems like a dream, but Goblin Berserker seems like it could be a very dangerous card, actually. I mean, if you just play it, you could just threaten a Gibbo and Roni for a lot of damage. So, while it might not be like a flashy card, it looks like it could fit pretty well into the game. I'm not sure if it would make goblins a little bit too dangerous on the rush side of things, but I think it's a cool card. Give goblins some love. This is a pretty cool way to give them love. Lyris has one card for us. Kia, the Fairy Queen. When she enters the field, search your deck for 2 fairy cards with mana cost 2 or less and put them into your hand. So that'll mostly be Moonlight Patrol because that's probably the best one, since Fae of Charm is now 3 mana. And then when an allied fairy destroys an enemy creature, you can bounce another creature to its owner's hand. So big boss monster for fairies. Pretty terrifying, actually. I mean, just searching two Moonlight Patrols, that's insane. That's basically draw 2 cards. And then if you do get a kill on the board, you can cast Tornado Outbreak for free. Wow, that's insane. Pretty cool. You know where it would work really great? With those vampire fairies that YC Chaos showed us. This card would be great, because you could search for these other fairies too. Yeah. Cool card. I like it. It's almost a shame that this is just a standalone, because this could easily be a contender. Moving on, we've got J-Bix with some Wolf support. Dire Wolf, we've got 2 mana, 2/1, pretty basic 2-drop, but when it engages in combat, you gain 1 mana. That's actually fairly significant, because it means that if it survives, you can attack with it next turn, and then you can basically ramp to like a 4-drop, like Library Guards or Wolf Tongue. That's significant. That's not a joke. Even though its stat line is kind of bad, the effect is pretty threatening. And the other side of things is that if it gets attacked and you get 1 mana, you could cast Ambush Strike, Outbreak, Flash Freeze. Yeah. Simple card, but you know what? It's pretty good. Wolf Rider. 3 mana, 2 aspects, 3/1, unaffected by hero skills. So I guess that means you can't Kayano him out? I actually don't know, because he's in your hand. I don't know. It doesn't really mean that much, but it does mean he's resistant to Cathedral, for instance, and things like Advanced Zash hero power and Advanced Darius hero power. So yeah, actually it means a little bit. The effect is when it comes into play, destroy a level 2 or lower card, and if you do, your opponent gains an empty mana crystal. It's a way to give nature some removal. However, this effect is just completely overpowered, because you can destroy things like Helms, like Descendants of Divinity, and like Library Guards, Mutants, and a whole bunch of other stuff. You thought Dr. Styx was ridiculously powerful? This card makes Dr. Styx look tame, because you can kill so many more things. And if you do Kayano him out, then he comes into play on the next turn, kills something, and then you can just play another Wolf Rider and kill another thing. Yes, you're giving your opponent mana crystals, but you're just free killing his board, and he can kill so many things. So, concept is cool, but it has to be this would be toned way down. Like, giving the empty mana crystals, I don't think is nearly sufficient compensation, considering the range of cards this can kill. Maybe just making it 4 mana as a start and combine with double nature, something like that. But I like the idea. Removal for nature is something nature really needs. Last card is Stampede. If you control at least 3 beasts, wolves, or aurites, destroy all creatures basically except those. Basically a board clear for nature. Oh my goodness. Although putting together 3 beasts, like, there's not very many beasts in the game. I think, is it only Unicorn? I actually don't know. Hang on, let me check real quick. If there's any other beasts in the game. But I know Unicorn is one. Oh yeah, there's a few. Pegasus, Venerated Unicorn, Hunting Gigantodon. Yeah, mostly like whatever beast. You're not gonna run those, except maybe Unicorn. So it seems a little bit difficult to put together. It kills Wolf Tongue if you play him, just so you know. But the concept, I guess, is decent. It's just a little bit hard to put together. But overall, yeah, I'd say it's good enough. Yeah, I'm gonna give him the contender tag. It's solid. Moving on, we've got Lyris with, I guess, fairies, in a way. So we got the Fairy Party, which goes with the Reveler Fairy. The Fairy Party is a 3 nature, 3 mana spell. It says Benediction. I assume it means blessing. At the start of your turn, put a Reveler Fairy into your hand. So what is a Reveler Fairy? Well, let's see. It's a 1 mana 1/1 fairy. I don't know if you can read that, but it says if you played 1 creature this turn, I assume that means besides this one, deal 1 damage to an enemy creature. If you played 2, draw a card. If you played 3, bounce a card back to hand. And if you played 6, create another Fairy Party. Wow, well, this seems completely insane because, I mean, just getting a 1 damage ping off of just one other creature seems ridiculous. And if you play 2, you get to draw a card? Oh my goodness. Basically, what I'm saying is that if Reveler Fairy existed as a card, you would just put it into your deck, even without Fairy Party, because you could get some ridiculous synergy. You could, if you play 1 creature, and then you play like 3 Reveler Fairies, you get to draw 2 cards, bounce 2 creatures, and then like deal 3 damage to something. And Fairy Party just spawning more. It's kind of cool, I guess. It's just probably a little bit overpowered. But the fact that it can like just keep spawning more Fairy Parties, it's really funny. But yeah, Reveler Fairy is pretty OP. Marianne, Forest Protector. It's an Fairy Angel. Oh, she's such a fair lady. Look at her. Double green, double order. Pretty specific. Gives Fairies +1 health. Gives Angels +1 speed. And at the end of your turn, chooses an allied Fairy, Elf, Plant, or Spirit. So the stuff you could get out of Grand Reunion. And makes it be not... Can't be chosen as a target of enemy spells or heroes. I don't know if that means that only as long as she's on the board. Or is it permanent? Well, first of all, she can target herself because she's a fairy. And so she becomes untargetable. And then you can just start making other stuff untargetable. Fairies and angels don't really have any synergy. So this card by itself doesn't seem that amazing. It's really expensive and really, really specific to play this. For not really a great effect. It is a fairy though, which means you can get it out of Grand Reunion. And that's terrifying. So it might be good enough just in that deck. Yeah, it's pretty cool, I guess. Well, the effect is a little unclear though. So, cool. I'd name Lyri's Contender, but between the Reveler being pretty OP and me not understanding this one, I gotta be a stickler. But pretty close. Pretty close. We've got Yarfas Farans with some angel synergy. We're starting with Anahita, the Angel of Fertility. Blue Angel, double blue, and 1 whatever. Flying whenever an allied angel enters the field gives 1 energy. And you can use energy to pay for angel cards. Wow. This card is pretty insane. Because you can play her on 3, and next turn you can play like a Soluxio for 1 mana. Or if you have 4 mana, you could play her on 3 and play Soluxio for 1 mana. So pretty powerful, and she gets extra energy as well. She is legendary, so she's not super duper OP, but definitely an insane addition and great reason to play blue-white angels, which is what I think Soluxio is trying to push anyway. So that card would fit right in. Really solid stuff. And with the 4 aspect, it gets 2 attack and lifebound too. Yeah. We got Ananshul, Angel of Grace. I don't know. If I'm butchering any of these names, please forgive me. Then, let's see. Oh, whoops. Didn't mean to do that. So we've got Flying, 2, 3, 4 speed. When it engages in combat, it loses 1 speed. And put a Might emblem on it. Oh, and put a Might at the end of combat. So the speed loss is permanent? That would suggest that speed loss is permanent, which kind of sucks, actually. So, okay, it's a 2-3 at first. Let's say it attacks your face. Then it becomes a 3-4 with 3 speed. That's still kind of good. Then it becomes a 4-5 with 2 speed. I guess that's still good. Then it becomes a 5-6 with 1 speed. And then it becomes a 6-7 with 0 speed. And this other effect for 4 energy, you can give it +1 speed. How is this thing ever going to get... It's never going to get 4 energy. So basically this effect does nothing. So what's going to happen is this card will eventually become useless. It's decent for a few turns. You know, as a 3-4 and 4-5, it's pretty good. But then eventually just kind of dies because at 0 speed, it can't attack or block, right? So it needs some mechanic to gain speed back. It's kind of a cool design, but it's not really... It's kind of not well thought out. By the way, this art, I think, is from... I know it's from Magic the Gathering. I remember this card. I forgot what it's called. But I think it's like a 4-4 Vigilance Angel or something. With flying, probably, for 5 mana. I forgot what it's named. But I remember playing this card in draft. And it being, like, decent. And the last one, Ezekiel, Archangel of Death. Flying enemy angels get -1 speed. Well, that's awfully specific. And if you have 4 aspects, you can pay 2 mana and select an enemy angel and sack Ezekiel to destroy that angel. I don't really understand why you need a card like this to counter angels. And it's not even really a good counter to them because you have to sacrifice Ezekiel to destroy an angel, so you're not exactly gaining any value this way. And angels aren't really something you need to counter, and if you really wanted to counter angels, you could just run removal. Yeah, I don't really understand what the idea here is. The art is pretty cool, I'll give you that, but yeah, I don't think this card just doesn't make much sense. I think it just needs to be a bit redesigned. And I just don't like the idea of like specifically countering one tribe. I just think that's like kind of lazy design. Like I really ragged on Yu-Gi-Oh for doing this, for creating cards that just shut down entire archetype as a way to like stop those from ever being dominant. But that's just bad design. The answer is to not design overpowered archetypes. A lesson Konami never learned. But yeah. I like Anahita, but the other two are kind of weird, so can't quite give you the contender tag, but I'll say that your art selection is pretty awesome. We've got Raveneer with some spider love. Spiders, man. So we've got the Ancient Spider here. Deadly and ranged. Well, that's a little excessive. 1/1 with 1 speed, and it gets 2 attack for every one of your corruption levels, 2 attack for every one of your dominion levels, and +1 speed for every plant or spider you control, I assume, besides this one. So if you have 4 aspects, 2 blue, 2 black, 2 green, then it's a 5/5 with deadly and ranged. And then depending on how many other spiders you have, it could be like 3 speed, 4 speed even. So pretty dangerous card. It's really cool. The art is really fun. It doesn't exactly look like a spider. I mean, it does not look like a spider, but hey, it's cool. I kind of like the idea that you can customize this creature because you could go for more aspects of one kind than another. You could make it a 7/3, for instance, or a 3/7. Deadly and range. It's a pretty expensive card, and it has no immediate effect. It's just a big beat sticks. And as we saw with something like Arcadius, if you're gonna have a card like that, it needs to have a dangerous effect, because a card like Red Dragon, which instantly threatens to win the game, isn't even that common. Then a card like Ancient Spider, while really, really cool, is not practically useful. But hey, it's a spider and it's a plant. That's synergy, boys. Obvious, isn't it? We got Salvi, the mother of spiders. 4 aspect, double corruption, double nature, as you would expect. 4 mana, 5/5 with 2 speed. Speed of enemy creatures can't be higher than Salvi's speed. It's actually pretty cool. That means once Salvi hits the board, all enemy creatures cannot have more than 2 speed. She can attack the support line. So between those 2 abilities, nothing can escape her. Not a thing can escape her. That's pretty awesome. And for 2 mana, you can enchain an enemy creature, or a target creature, which basically has the effect of putting it to sleep, unless your opponent pays, how much is it? Pay mana equal to half of its cost to round it up. So if you enchain like an Antriel, if Antriel wants to attack or block, your opponent has to pay 2 mana. And you can just enchain a whole bunch of stuff. Now, it doesn't say whether enchain stays on creatures. Like if Salvi leaves the board, presumably the enchain is no longer in effect. But let's say if another Salvi enters the board, are those things re-enchained again? It's not clear. It's a cool card, although kind of has the same issue as the previous one, where it doesn't immediately do anything. That being said, the utility of attacking the support row and nothing being able to outrun her is actually pretty cool. So yeah, I'm gonna give him points for that. And also the art seems pretty fitting. Like, this is a really weird looking creature. And then Spider Rush. Summon 2 Spider Spitters onto the board. It's an instant, and the Spider Spitters are 1/1s with 3 speed and deadly. So it's basically a guards, except the guys are deadly. That's pretty awesome. This card is a little obnoxious because guards is already annoying. This is basically like kill any 2 attacking creatures, pretty much, unless they're shielded, I guess. Yeah, I mean, this card would be terrifying. And it's a way to summon spiders on the board. Synergy with the Ancient Spider. Yeah, don't you know? Anyways, It's pretty cool selection. I'm gonna name Raveneer a contender because, you know, spiders. That's just a really cool idea. And these are really thematic too, and the art is just perfect. Like, you can even see a lot of these cards are green and black. No, this one's a little bit bluish too, but yeah, I just feel these cards, if you know what I mean. Good job. And then we've got Dark Silver, the originator of the contest, with some elves. So first we've got the Partisan Sharpshooter, a support card, which means it enters the support row. That's important. When it enters the field, you can exhaust it and deal 3 damage to an enemy non-elf creature on the support row. So now the reason this is relevant is because since she goes on the support row, if you want to activate this and exhaust her, she gets stuck on the support row and can't come back. So basically it comes into play, deals 3 damage to something on the support. Yeah, that's pretty cool. You know, being able to deal with the support row is something nature has trouble with. You could use this to snipe Flesh Sculptor. It's pretty cool. Reminds me of that Angry Bird card that was in the previous contest. This card might be too powerful. Maybe. Because it's basically free removal. Although it's only free removal against specific things. But the thing is, it can kill like a Succubus. It can kill Bloodwitch Harpy. It can kill a lot of things. Although only on the support row. It's probably really good. Maybe it's not overpowered. But it's a cool card. Next, we've got Avenge Our Brethren. 1 mana instant spell. As an additional cost to play this, you have to exhaust 3 elves you control and then kill an enemy creature. So it's basically like a Devious Plot, but you don't have to lose anything, and it's instant. So it's actually a very powerful card, but you do have to have 3 elves on the board, so there is that. I think it's a pretty cool way to make elves, like give elves some removal. It kind of sucks that it's the minion card, because God knows the minion doesn't have enough removal. But it is specific to one kind of deck, and it seems to be pretty fitting. Now, it says Tribal Action Elf. I don't exactly... Okay. Okay, he says, a card counts as an elf for the purposes of cards specifically saying elves. But because it's an instant spell, it's not going to matter unless it asks for your hand. But hey, it's something. It's an elf spell. There you go. Cool card. Last card is Great Oakendom. The way the text is written is really weird. Legendary Tribal Blessing. Your elves have +1/+1. So it's a Master Tactician for elves. And when this is in play, you can discard a copy of it from your hand to get a free search on an elf. So that means if you get extra copies of it, it's not dead because they're legendary. So you can just cycle them for more cards. And you can exhaust 3 elves that you control to draw a card. It's pretty cool. Seems like a really good value engine for elves. I mean, they already have Nienna. But this is kind of cool, I guess. Yeah, it seems like it would fit pretty well into elves. And I think between this and like this card, actually all 3 of these would make the deck of Dominion and Nature elves probably pretty good. Because you also have things like Temptress of Deceit, who is also an elf. So I like the idea. I'm gonna call this a contender. Well done. We're almost done. Drygord has 1 card for us. The Demiurge? I don't know if that's correct. It's a 4 mana, 4 aspect card. When it enters the field, returns a Djinn from your graveyard onto the board. All Djinn get +1 speed for each blue above 3. So if you have 4 blue, all Djinn get +1 speed. There's not very many Djinn in the game. It's like Library Guards and Djinn of Wishes. I mean, bringing back a Library Guards is obviously pretty good. And then for X mana, you can summon a spell to your hand. I have no idea what that means at all. So, yeah, maybe Drygord can explain this a little bit better. I don't know what summon a spell to your hand means. And then Zich. I'm going to call you Zich. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. I think I had trouble with it last time. He's bringing us some more Nagas. So we have a few Nagas already. The Bloodwell Matriarch and Bloodwell Elite are both Nagas. There you go. Naga Hunter, pretty simple card. It doesn't say it's a Naga. I assume it is. He may have just forgotten to include it. And then it gets +1 HP for each other Naga you control. So if you have another Naga, it's basically an Elf Warrior. That's pretty solid. It's alright. Naga Pack. It's a 3/3, 4 mana, 2 aspects. Gives an energy at the start of turn. For 2 energy, you can summon a Ruined Snake on the board. And a Ruined Snake is a 1 mana, 1/1, 2/1 beast that gives all of your Nagas +1 attack. I mean, this is, as a card is not even that bad as a 1-drop because it's almost like a Zombie Legionnaire. It's a little worse, but still. And then you play, okay, this is not a Naga itself, but still. You play this, then you can play Naga Hunter. It's a 3/1. And we only have 3 Nagas, but with more of them, it could become pretty good. Now, these are all pretty basic cards. Like, nothing too flashy, but a reasonable, like entry into the Naga theme. You know, you're not exactly going to want to make a deck all of a sudden just because these cards exist. But, yeah, it works well enough. But I'm afraid I've run out my allowance of contenders. Nah, I'm just joking. But it's just not quite flashy enough, if you will. I do like me some flashy cards. But I think with a few more Naga cards, you know, you got a decent start here. We're almost done. We've got the Institute of Learning from Zaralon, which is his only submission. It's a hero power. Actually, it's not his only submission. I was just kidding. Educate. Oh, you get educated. So 1 blue and 3 mana and X cooldown. Searches your deck for a mage and puts it into your hand. And then the cooldown is equal to the level of the mage. Okay, so if you search like a Force Mage Protector, it's got a cooldown of 2. Yeah, I guess it's kind of cool. I don't know how well it really fits, though, because it's basically card draw. Well, it's a little better than card draw. But you don't really need more card draw as wisdom. That said, if mages were to become a thing, Institute of Learning probably would be pretty decent, because it's basically the ability to search them out of your deck. That's pretty decent. Mage Robes. This is another entry into the 2 mana enchantment. Oh, this is an artifact that comes back to your hand. This one, you can only attach it to a mage, and then that doesn't have a mage robe. The mage gets a shield emblem, and then it makes, as I understand it correctly, for every mage robe you get a 1 mana discount on that many spells. So if you play your mage robes, then you have a 1 mana discount on 1 spell per turn. I think. I could be wrong. Yeah, it's a decent card, but it wouldn't probably see any constructive play for the same reason that Namir's Blessing and Murder Instinct don't. Which I'm not even entirely sure what the reason is, but they don't see play. So, a card like this, because it's specific to mages, and the effect is kind of... I mean, giving them a shield is decent, I guess, but the mana reduction on spells is a bit of a slow going here, but, you know, it seems reasonable that a card like that would exist for mages. Mage Robes! It's cool! And the last card, Energy Vortex. 4 Aspect Blessing. It gets 1 energy at the start of turn. When you play a mage, creature, spell, or artifact, it gets 3 more energy, and it can steal an energy every turn. And when you have 100 energy, you win the game. Okay. 100 energy is a long way to go. So it gets 1 energy at the start of turn, and then you can presumably steal 1 energy from something else. So that's 2. And maybe you can play an average of 2 spells or mages per turn, so that's another 6. Maybe you could get like 8, maybe 10 energy per turn if you're lucky, and then you win at 100. It's a very slow win condition. It's kind of cool. I think I would have preferred if instead of just straight up winning the game, you could like remove 20 energy to do something really awesome. And that would make it a really, really interesting card. It's a little bit boring almost. Like, you design this kind of deck almost like a 1-turn heal deck where you just sit and do nothing and you just build energy. That being said, it's a little bit more fair than 1-turn heal because it is a spell. But because it's a spell, your opponent can just play a unicorn, destroy it, and crush your hopes and dreams. Bummer. I guess it's kind of cool. So, mage cards, yeah, I guess it's kind of cool. Although the problem with mages, they're kind of all over the place. Like, the mage tag is one of those that are just kind of randomly given out to any creature that looks like it might be a mage. And so as a result, you got this really weird set. Actually, he even has them here. Like, you got the Apothecary, Force Wielder, Eleanor, Force Mage Protector, Jin. Okay, a lot of, wisdom ones. And then, like, Duke Hartsford, apparently. Thea, Bloodwitch Harpy, Undead Necromancer, and Raigon. So, with the exception of with the exception of the wisdom ones, you're not going to want to put together a deck of mages, really, because they're just too random. And so Institute is, a good card if the mages were possible, but mages are so far away from ever being a thing that, cards like Mage Robes and Institute just aren't going to do anything. Vortex is kind of cool, but I wish it wasn't an instant win condition, so good idea, but maybe the mage theme was a little bit too hard to work with to try to come up with something really good. But you know what? Points for trying. You probably tried one of the hardest tribes to make them work, and you created some interesting cards. Moving right along, we've got vampires, I guess, but it's just vampires, not vampire fairies. Starting with Blood Banquet, it's basically similar to the elf card. If you have 3 vampires, you can kill something, and then you buff 3 vampires by +1/+1. A +1 plus X, where the X is the health of the creature you killed, rounded down. Well, half rounded down. It's a bit expensive, and it's not instant. And there's a lot less vampires going around than there are elves. I guess you might run this in the... If that fairy elf, a fairy vampire thing existed, this might be good, but honestly... Probably not. Maybe it's not that bad. I mean, if you have 3 vampires on the board and you manage to play this, it's actually pretty powerful. But I think because a lot of the powerful vampires are legendary, might be a bit difficult. But actually, except this card combined with YS Chaos's cards would probably be really good. But because everybody could only submit 3 cards, it's kind of hard to make it work. Not a bad card, though. Oh my god, look at this. Look at this face. This guy is just having the time of his life. Fuzzician Aristocrat. Sure. 1/4 support. For 2 mana, you can pay 3 life and discard a card and search for a vampire card and put it into your hand. I guess that's cool. It's a little slow, though, because you have to play it for 4 and then pay another 2. And you have to discard a card and pay 3 life. It's pretty expensive to get a search. Not sure if it's worth it. But it's a cool card, I guess. The art is really funny, by the way. I don't know where you got this. But holy crap, this just make me laugh. Just look at this dude. He's like, yeah, it's cool. I'll search for a vampire eventually. Just chill, bro. That's pretty cool. Mirthis, Oligarch of Souls. Okay, this card is really complicated. So when you play this, you summon 2 Vampiric Reincarnation. The Vampiric Reincarnation is... Okay, so technically he submitted 4 cards. We're gonna have to penalize him for that. Maybe. So the Vampiric Reincarnation is another vampire. It's a 1/1 flying, can't block. If you have 3 or more other vampires, it gets lifebound. It's just kind of a whatever creature. It's not that bad. So when you summon this, you get 2 of those on the board. She gets +1/+1 for each reincarnation. So she starts out as a 3/3. Kind of like Night Recruiter almost. For 3 mana, you can sack another non-summoned vampire to summon a vampire reincarnation. And then when she dies, you can pay half your life to return her to the field. Okay, well, that's a lot to digest. Basically, the card is probably just way too expensive to ever see play. Because when she comes into play, she's not even that threatening. It's just a 3/3 with some flying bats, right? And, paying 3 to sack a vampire to get another crappy bat is probably going to be really bad for the most part. And you really want to pay half your life to bring this back? I think if this card was like 3 mana, 3 aspects, it might be something. But at 5 mana, I mean, it's basically more expensive than Arcadius, Red Dragon, and Antriel. It's not quite impressive. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to want to pay half my life just to get this back. The idea is interesting, though, but it doesn't seem like it's really very practical. So, I'd say the fairy vampires submissions were probably a little bit better than this. This isn't too bad, though. Like, okay, not a big fan of this one, but the Aristocrat and the Banquet seem like solid cards. But I think if you'd have a harder time adding these cards into an existing deck than you would with the other 3, because they also work off of the fairy synergy. It's decent, but I think in order to avoid a bit of repetition, I'm gonna give this one to YC Chaos. But at the same time, recognizing that these are cool cards. Actually, hang on. I think I recognize this card, this art. I know Magic the Gathering had this mechanic called like Bloodlust or something, where a creature would get more powerful if you dealt phase damage that turn. I think I've seen this on one of those cards. Correct me if I'm wrong. I have no idea where this is from, but it's absolutely hilarious. I think this might just have to be like the thumbnail for this video because it's hilarious. And this one, I have no idea. Oh yeah, submitted 4 cards. Trying to cheat. And the last is Dobrycy. So he's got kind of like a new thing with buildings, which are basically artifacts that stay on the board, but they have the tag building. So first one, Tower of Thoughts. The enemy hero plays with his hand revealed. Well, I already don't like this card. At the start of your turn, if he has three or more cards, he chooses 3 of them, and then you can discard one of those. And if he has less than 3, he decays 2 plus X, where X is number of buildings in control. So, wow. That's a disgusting card, because, I mean, not only do you permanently see their hand, you can discard a card every single turn, because it's at the start of his turn, so you're going to get a discard with this for sure. You get to see his hand and pick something, so it's at worst a 2-mana Mind Extortion. But if your opponent can't remove this, you can Mind Extort him every single turn. That is so disgusting. I don't think I could support a card like this. I already have a problem with discard, especially targeted discard. But can you imagine stacking like 2 of these on the board? You just wipe your opponent's entire hand. Really, really, really not nasty. And when they have no cards, you just mill them. Tower of Elves. Welcome to possibly the most broken card on this entire list. So, another building, 3 mana, 1 aspect, starts with 2 energy. For 1 mana, you can summon an Elf Scout. For 2 mana, you can give all your creatures +1 speed. For 5, you can give all your elves unblockable until end of turn. And at the start of your turn, it gets plus energy equal to a number of buildings. So basically, ignore everything about this card except the first part where it summons Elf Scouts, and the last part where it gets energy. And we are reminded of a certain card called Cloning Vats that could summon creatures mid-combat, except this thing could summon 2 Elf Scouts from the get-go for 0, and it gets energy every turn. So if you have 2 buildings, you could summon 2 Elf Scouts for free every turn at the end of turn or in the middle of combat. Cloning Vats was super duper broken because it could do exactly that, except with Cloning Vats you actually had to pay mana, and you mostly summoned garbage creatures. Well, not always. With this, you're getting 4 speed Elf Scouts, and you can summon multiple at a time. So imagine having like 2 or 3 of these on the board. I mean, you could summon an entire army of elves at instant speed at any time. No, thank you. Really, Dobrycy, you didn't think this through, did you? Tower of Wizards. Very similar. Pay 2 mana to draw a card. Pay 5 to counter target spell. I'm not sure how that would even work, because when your opponent plays a spell, you are not given the option to do anything about it. Unless you're suggesting that there would be a prompt saying, do you wish to counter the spell? If that's the case, this card should be incinerated, because we already hate Silencer, and having the ability to just counter whatever you want. Oh god. And again, it gains X energy when, for each building you have. So if you just have a bunch of these buildings, you can win the game with just these buildings. The Tower of Thoughts destroys their hand. The Tower of Elves spams the board with elves, and this one can draw you cards, or it can counter spells. You know what? I like that you want to come up with a new type of card, building. I think that's pretty cool, by the way. And I think if buildings were to be introduced, they should not be artifacts. They should be separate entities. So nothing can remove them normally, but at the same time, their effects wouldn't be that powerful. Like, these are completely insane. Like, I don't want to see cards like this. This is basically an overpowered version of VATS. This is basically Mind Extortion on steroids. And this is maybe not as dangerous, but still basically easy card draw. Because at worst, you're drawing an extra card every other turn for free. If you have 2 buildings, you're drawing a card every turn for free. So you put a deck together with 4 of these, 4 of these, 4 of these, and a bunch of removal. and you're gonna have a really good time. And then, okay, these are not suggestions. So that's it. Now, you may have noticed I actually named 7 contenders. Yeah, I was lying when I was talking about the 6. I just kind of threw a number out. I actually forgot how many it was. Anyways, so we've got the 7 contenders, and I'll recap them. They are the zombies, the vampire fairies, the automaton creatures, the elves, spiders, orites, and wolves. So of those 7, I'm going to pick my top 3 favorites, and then the top 1 favorite is going to be the winner. I'm going to tell you right away, it was pretty tough to pick a winner because there were so many good submissions. Even the things that I didn't give the contender to were really good. You guys really, really impressed this time. I don't even know what the theme for the 3rd one is going to be, but if the quality of cards is going to be anything like this, it's going to get even harder to try to come up with like a winner. So I might just decide to delegate that responsibility to someone else. I'll just, do the video anyways, but I'll have somebody else. Maybe I'll stick Laurentiel with this job just because he's Polish and stuff, and just have him pick. Or you know what? No, you know what? Maybe it'll be Dobrycy because he suggested such silly cards. Anyways, forget all of that. Starting with my third favorite set of 3 cards was the spiders. What made me really like this set is the art was a really big part. Even though this doesn't exactly look like a spider, it just seems to fit so smoothly into the cards that it immediately clicked with me. Even though these are not necessarily maybe the best design cards, they're still pretty cool. The Spider Rush is a really funny way to make your opponent curse your very existence because he's afraid to attack you. This one, it is really cool in that it can kind of lock down the board like you'd expect a big spider to be able to do. And even if it's maybe not the strongest creature, it's still really cool. And the Ancient Spider, for whatever reason, I see this card and I'm just smiling. I don't know if it's the art of just this giant mountainside spider-like creature with deadly and range and all these ridiculous abilities, but yeah. Raveneer gets 3rd place. Well done. Good job, my friend. I hope you keep submitting awesome cards. But now, moving on to number 2, we've got the automatons, aka the artifact creatures. Vitamin C gets 2nd place yet again with a very solid selection of cards. So Arcadius is a really good boss monster. Possibly my favorite single card here. I'm honestly not sure. Not really. But really cool. Definitely a fitting boss monster. Pretty powerful and threatening. Exactly what you'd expect for a big card. Really cool. And the other 2 cards work really well. The Disassemble seems like a card that should just exist, really. Like, it could very easily exist. It makes sense. It fits pretty well with the existing game. And yeah, I'd say these 3 cards would be an excellent extension, probably alongside Flux Protector, into the existing artifact creatures to make it actually a playable archetype. Now, of course, with cards like the Blossom, it could become OP because the Blossom lets you, I forgot it was like something Blossom. Nobody plays that card because nobody plays artifact creatures. It could become overpowered, but you could always tweak it later. So yeah, well done. 2nd place to Vitamin C. You missed 1st, but you know what? It was so damn close between this and 1st. Like, I could have just as easily have named this 1st, almost to the point of declaring a tie for 1st place. But I felt like I had to declare a winner. But you know what, Vitamin C? You're a winner in my eyes too, because you keep submitting really awesome cards. But now, the winner, which I thought was the coolest set of 3, goes to the Vampire Fairies. What can I say? These Vampire Fairies just seem to be not only just solid by themselves, but just really great fits into more than one kind of deck, being vampires and fairies. These are all, like, especially the Fallen Fairy. You don't even have to run this with vampires, right? If you could just play an Empress of the Forest, give it an energy, and then give it an energy through some other way, or just play it in a blue deck and give it energy that way, it becomes a 3/3. It becomes a really powerful card. And a vampire as well. The Blood-Seeking Fairy is also really neat. It's kind of like a removal engine. You do have to have some fairies to sacrifice, but hey, works pretty well. The color selection, purple and green, perfect. Just overall. But again, it was really close between this and the automatons. So, YC Chaos, good job. You impressed me the most, but Vitamin C impressed me almost as much. So close. I actually would really love to see these 3 cards in the game, because I think you could really make this vampire fairy theme work. You've got some powerful vampires like Prinha and Karthus, and even Blood-Seeking Mutant, backed up by some decent fairies like these 3. Perhaps the Empress of the Forest, Fae of Charm, who knows? It could be a really interesting deck. You can combine nature with, you know, purple removal. They have something really cool. You could even run Life Force Incarnate with this. Man, it's just awesomeness all around. Pretty cool stuff. Anyways, it's been fun. This video is getting a little bit too long. It was quite a task to try to look at all these cards, find a winner, and I kind of feel like I didn't give out enough praise to everyone, because obviously it takes, you know, some effort to come up with a cool card. Even the cards maybe I didn't like so much, none of them were really bad. Okay, Dobritsa, you're the exception. Please don't submit blatantly overpowered cards, unless you want to make me miserable, don't you? But just kidding. So yeah, good job everyone. Really cool cards, really good ideas. I kind of wanted to call the zombies like one of my favorites, but it was really close, but not quite. I think the power level on these is a little bit off, and this card kind of annoys me. I kind of don't want this to be a card, because I think this effect is very nasty to deal with, because it's almost like a pacify, where your opponent can stop any, like if your opponent attacks this, he could send that back and block something else. You can even use him to stop your own attack. Like you attack something, he plays ambush strike, oh, retreat it, right? And then, yeah. It reminds me of Force Mage Protector with a shield, but this guy's possibly even worse, because you can just send a creature back. With a Force Mage Protector, you can just gang up on him and break through the shield. With this guy, it's much harder to gang up on him. So, yeah, I think ultimately I wouldn't want this to be a card. If you just changed its effect to something else, it probably would be pretty cool. But yeah, good job to everyone. Thanks for submitting. We'll announce the 3rd one sometime. I'll just get Dark Silver to do it, because I'm feeling super lazy right now. We'll come up with a theme. I'm going to let somebody else create a theme this time. Actually, you know what? I'm going to YC Chaos, because he is the winner. We're going to let YC Chaos choose the next theme. So, thanks for coming. Stay awesome. And I'll see you next time.